Okay, now we are ready in our editing process to export our final sequence. So I'll walk through that process pretty quickly for you in this video tutorial. I have the sequence up on display in Premiere. It's the Deadwood guitar sequence we've been looking at in class. The package is all edited, all complete. I've done all my audio checks, all my final trimming and adjustments and fine tuning. So we are ready to go. A couple of things to take note of. First is my work area. Notice this gray strip right up at the top of my timeline. That's the work area, and it usually just stretches out across your sequence. It covers as much content and material as you have in there. If for some reason you move the work area back here or inadvertently slide it around when you mean to move the playhead, you might want to double check this work area and make sure it just stretches out from the beginning of your sequence all the way to the last shot. So do that real quickly. I'll show you why in just a second. So let's zoom back out. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure I hit home on the keyboard just to put my playhead right back here at the first frame of video. I also want to make sure that all of my tracks, any track in the timeline that has content, video 2 with my titles, video 1 with B-roll, audio 1, 2, and 3, these all have content, so I want them all activated. I want to export all that material. Okay, next step, after I've got all that set up, is to do I'm going to do a quick render before I export. You don't necessarily have to do this. You can go right to exporting and it'll sort of force render anything. The things that need rendering, by the way, notice these yellow stripes right above that title, right above these little title elements, another yellow strip here, indicates things that still need some rendering. These are title effects that have just been added to the sequence, so they are little visual title effects that need some rendering. So let's do that real quick. All I'm going to do is go up here to the top of the screen to Sequence, and I'm going to say Render All Effects in the Work Area. That's why that work area is important. So as far as that stretches, which is the whole timeline, any effect inside of that work area will now be rendered, and this will just take a few minutes. So it'll go in there and look for any effects. There they go. And you'll just see a little dialog or a box like this with an update bar. And it's going to go through all my little video renders, anything that has to conform. You probably noticed that when you edit high definition clips into a standard definition sequence, you'll see either a red or a yellow line across the entire top. And that just tells you that Premiere has to render those HD clips all the way back down to standard. So that's what this is doing right now. It just takes a few minutes and we're done, or a few seconds. So everything's rendered. I've got a green light now on all those title pieces. They have all been adjusted. Effects have been rendered. Now we simply go to the export stage. Again, I'm right at the top of the sequence. And of course, you know me, I like keyboard shortcuts, so I use Command M, and that's going to bring up my export box. There we are. This is the quick way to do it. And remember a moment ago I mentioned that note about the work area. Look at this bottom area of the export box. It says the source range. In other words, what is it going to export from the timeline? By default, it says, okay, take the work area. That's why it's important for your work area, that gray area, to stretch out over the entire sequence. So let me move the export box aside just so you can see that again. See my gray work area? It goes from the tail of the sequence all the way across to the head. So that gray strip means all of that's going to be exported. That's my work area. You can drop down and choose other selections like entire sequence, and then it'll ignore the work area and just export what's in the timeline. But just when you're in a hurry, remember, work area pops up first. If your work area is set, bang, no problem. So work area is good. Let's move this box back up here. A couple of other things to check. Now, I've been working in a sequence like you guys. It's that DV NTSC, 48 kilohertz for the audio. Perfect format for what we need to export. I still want to look up here to double check that my settings for exporting are correct. And notice it shows that my format for my container is going to be QuickTime. Okay, that's good. Leave that alone. My preset should say NTSC DV. If it does not say that on your export box, you need to select it. So you use the drop-down menu. Don't use these H.264s. Nope, avoid those. Scroll down to NTSC DV. Not widescreen, not H.264, just plain old NTSC with the DV codec. That's what we want. It may appear by default right when you go to export, especially if you're in our lab down here in Grady. The other thing I want to do is click on this little yellow title. It becomes like a link in a web page. I click it, and it brings up this dialog box. It says, all right, that's the name of the sequence. That's what you want to call this movie. Where do you want to put it? So I'm going to use my folder system, and I'm going to back up to my Premiere Projects 2014. You know where you should go with this, right? We've been over this in class. I'm going to go to the Deadwood Guitars folder in my February 2014, and I have a place for video exports. I'm putting by name. Video exports, that should be folder number 6. Open it up. There's a folder for the broadcast package and one for the web packages. I'm just going to go to broadcast. Notice I've already done this with Deadwood Guitar. So I would designate that. I would hit save. And it's going to say, hey, you already have one in there called Deadwood Guitar. I'll say, yeah, replace it. So I'm just going to export it again right on top of it. So NTSC DV is selected. I've got the right location for the export selected. And then I've also got the video codec. It's got that DV NTSC. All that's good. It's going to export the whole scene. Then I just click the export button, and it's going to remind me again that, yes, there's a package with that name already in the file. Do you want to cover it up? Sure. I'm just redoing what I did a few minutes ago. And look how quick it's going to go. Since everything in my sequence is already DV, this will go pretty fast. Yours might take a little bit longer because it might have to conform all those HD clips into DV. But that's what's going to get us there. And this is the exporting process to get the sequence from its timeline form back to a movie file on your hard drive. That's a big part of this. Get it back to your hard drive as a QuickTime movie. Then in the next video, I'll show you really quickly how to take that QuickTime from your drive and then drop it into the class folder in our lab. So stay tuned for that.